guys, welcome to the Joi-Zulema show. I am your host, Joi-Zulema, and today I wanted to talk to you all about a very important subject. I'm going to be very vulnerable with you guys today. For those who have gone through the loss of a child, an unfortunate situation with the loss of a child, I just wanted to share my journey and what I went through. I've lost three children. I lost twins in 2007, a girl and a boy. And I lost a child after I had my son, RJ. I lost a child in 2011, my youngest daughter. And I wanted to share how you can get through that time, or how I got through that time. And it may help somebody else. And I just wanted to be vulnerable with you today. So it's just me. I have something here that I wanted to share that helped me get through, because some people that go through that wonder, how am I going to grieve a child that I never really had, when you lose them in utero or stillbirth. And I wanted to share that you actually did have memories and experiences, the kicks, the first movement, the first sonogram. So all those are memories that you can cherish. And what I did, I was journaling through my pregnancy with my twins. That was my first pregnancy. My journey was a little difficult. We were diagnosed as being infertile. So I went through the process of IVF with my twins. My first pregnancy was IVF. It was successful, hence how I had twins. We had two embryos that were inserted, for lack of a better phrase, to explain that. But anyway, so we had two embryos that transferred, and they were successful. And I journaled some things. I have a box here. I'm going to share some things with you guys. And the pregnancy in and of itself was fine, so I thought. Around 21 weeks is when things got a little difficult, and we lost my daughter, Destiny. I did name her Destiny, at home in the toilet. She was about a pound and some ounces. It was difficult, and they were trying to save my son at the time because he did not come. And I had been in labor with her through the night and just wasn't aware that I was in labor. Had never been pregnant before, so I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. Sometimes they say those contractions are Braxton Hicks. I thought that might have been what I was going through in the middle of the night. I was having some pain, but I didn't think that what happened would happen. So, make a long story a little bit shorter, she had already passed away in utero. I went to the restroom and out she came. And I had her literally still tied to me when the paramedics came, the umbilical cord. The trauma of that even happening was very extremely difficult. And the ride there to the hospital was probably one of the longest and hardest rides I had to go through, because at the same time of losing her, my body didn't seem like it was in labor anymore. So my concentration was on staying calm so that my son would be okay. I named him Joshua. So when I got to the hospital, that's what the concentration was on, saving my son. I was actually still in labor, but they were giving me medicine and things to maintain it and try to save him. When about a day or two later, I got an amniocentesis. That's when they actually stick a needle in the sac. They put dye in there to make sure I wasn't leaking, because I felt like I was leaking amniotic fluid. And the dye actually started coming out a few hours later, so that let them know that, the amniotic fluid was leaking, and I was in fact in labor with my son Joshua. So I was in labor for about 14 hours with him. It for whatever reason, he wasn't coming, then he was coming, then he wasn't. And it got really difficult to be in that trauma. I had already lost one. I got the news that this one was coming. His lungs were not developed enough to be able to live. So we knew that he was going to be gone too. And I couldn't get through the trauma of it all. I had to concentrate, and I got through it. Let me rephrase that. I got through the trauma, but it didn't all hit me because everything was going so fast. I had just lost her. We were in the ambulance. I stayed in the hospital. I was in labor. Then I wasn't in labor. Then I was, and then finally he did come out. Delivered him. He was alive. He lived for about 2.5 minutes in my hand. It was very bittersweet because he lived and he was moving his fingers, and it was a moment where I could actually see him. He was underdeveloped, so it was a little bit different. He didn't look the way a full-term baby would look. And it was like he smiled, and literally he was in one hand because I had in both hands, but he was so small. And I looked at him, looked like he was struggling to breathe a little bit, and then he just slipped away. Just slipped away. So it was bittersweet because I was able to see him be alive, look like to me what was smiling. Uh-oh, that's my cat, y'all. Looked like to me what was smiling, and then he was gone. So while I was in the hospital, I was actually going through shock, both physically and psychologically. I had to have a DNC after that because they could not remove the both sacs. So I had to go through that, an emergency DNC, and it was just traumatic. There was one thing after another, and now that I look back on it, everything was kind of like a blur a little bit because my mind is trying to keep sane. I did have support there. I was married at the time, so my ex-husband was there with me. And men grieve differently. We didn't really talk about them too much after it was all over, and I got home and the milk came, still went through postpartum, had to have the 6-week checkup. So I'm in the office with a lot of women who are pregnant and sitting there in the lobby in a waiting room waiting for me to be called while I'm looking at all these women who are pregnant or have their own 6-week appointment and the baby's there. Y'all, when I say I don't know how I really got through that, I really don't, other than prayer and God, because it was one of the most difficult things I've ever been through, trauma-wise. But one of the things that I did do, and I'm grateful to the hospital for what they did do, they took pictures of the children, the twins, and they clothed them. And as little as they were, there's an organization that actually crochets little clothes for women who have had stillbirth or women who have had miscarriages, and the baby is not viable because that's not well, it could be, and the baby is able to wear the clothes, put it like that. So I had both of the children while I was mourning and grieving. Both of the children took pictures together. I'm going to show you some of the things that they had. They had this bear, and there's a little teardrop here, so it did mimic or symbolize how I felt. They had pictures with the bear. They were both on the bear, and they had a blanket wrapped around them. This is how little the blanket is. They had the blanket wrapped around them. Oh, get down. And they had clothes. And do I have the clothes in here? Well, they had the blanket per se. I did keep that. And I had the little tube in where the embryos were transferred in. I kept this. It meant a lot to me. I have a box full of their things. And this transfer was 7707. 777. I need to play that number. So July 7th, 2007, 2 days after my birthday, they transferred the embryos. I have their little bracelets that were wrapped around their little itty bitty feet as much as they could be. They were so small. But Joshua and Destiny's bracelet, they actually say baby A, baby B. And their blanket and their teddy bear. And then for Destiny, they gave me prints of her hand and her feet. Like I said, she was already gone when we got to the hospital. She was gone at home, actually, when I delivered her in the bathroom. But this gives me her hand prints and her feet, as little as they are. And whenever I feel like I want to memorialize them or remember them, I'll go to my box. I did it a lot in the beginning. I haven't been through this in quite some time, but it's a very special place, and I am sharing that with you. They had certificates of life. Actually, Joshua had a birth certificate because he was born alive. He had a birth certificate, and I got a death certificate for him. But for Destiny, she has a certificate of life that the organization did. They didn't do a birth certificate for her because she wasn't born alive. So they did a special certificate for her. And this was dated from July 7th, 2007, which was when they were transferred, to October 16th of 2007. So that's when they took me to the hospital, October 16th. Now for Joshua was July 7th, but I delivered him actually 3 days later. I thought it was about 1 or 2, but October 19th, 2007 is the day that he passed away and went home to be with the Lord. So I go to this box, I memorialize them. It helps me get through the mourning and the grief process that I went through, because, well, people say the weirdest things. I'll get to that in a moment. I was able to grieve them healthily. I wrote letters to them. I kept their sonograms. I had all of that in here, just so that I could have a moment to really grieve them. Now, we were able to have them cremated, and they are actually buried in a cemetery in Delhi for women who have had stillborns and miscarriages, and the child can actually kind of create ashes per se. So they are buried. I haven't gone to the memorial site. I just never got myself around to doing that. I just memorialized them in this satin box that one of my pastors gave me when I was going through this. And I do have a box of things that they made for Joshua, this special box. that he got a little bit more because he was born alive. Um, these are sonograms. Oh, I can show you. See, 1 sac, 2 sacs. So I kept these while they were growing. And then here is Joshua's blanket. He did have a blanket. He had the blue one, a little blanket. So I kept all of these as a memory. And Joshua's footprint is here. I don't know if you can see it. His little footprint. So I go in these to remember them. Like I was saying, some people feel like because they had a miscarriage and they weren't born alive, there's no memories, or so I created my own. I just kept everything that they had and made my own memories. I remember going to the hospital. I remember the transfer. I remember I was keeping that stuff anyway just because it was a journey for my pregnancy. So when I was able to keep this stuff, it helped me mourn. Now, for those who have not kept anything and have had a situation where they weren't able to grieve because they didn't have what the hospital offered me, what I would advise you to do is to make your own. Write letters, journal letters, get a memory box, whatever their birthstone was. Maybe get a ring made. I had a friend who actually did that when she lost her daughter. You can get a ring made. You can get a pendant. You can make your own memorial for them to have a place where you can healthily grieve the loss that you had. One of the things I was going to say was some people say, well, you can always have more children, as if they're puppies, or it's the dumbest thing to say. Don't say that to anybody who just lost a child. We know you mean well, but don't say that. It's not good. It's offensive, actually, because it's almost a saying that child didn't exist, or so just refrain from saying that. If you can't say anything, just, I'm praying for you. That's a good thing. I'm thinking of you. So after 2007, I had my healthy boy, RJ, and that pregnancy was a little bit rough, but we were prepared. We had a frozen embryo. We had 8 actually, and he survived the thaw and another embryo. So there were 2 embryos that survived the process of thawing out. They did transfer 2, and RJ's the one that clutched on. So prayed for him. He was an absolute blessing. I had a rough pregnancy with him, with diabetes and all kind of depression things I was going through, but we got him here. He's healthy, and I'm so thankful to God for that blessing. The last trimester of that pregnancy, I was on bed rest in a hospital for 2.5 months. The walls, I felt like I didn't have a window, I don't even think. It was just, it got a little weird. So in order to keep myself up, I made a schedule of TV shows that I was going to watch, when I was going to take a shower. Had to get back in the bed after taking a shower, but would play solitary and games and things like that to get through it. And had the baby shower in the hospital. Ooh-wee. That was a time, y'all. That was a time. But we got him here, and he's a healthy 16-year-old going on 17. Now, in 2011, actually it was 2010, I'm sorry, I got pregnant. No embryos, no transfer, no IVF, just woohoo. Up came a baby. And we weren't expecting it. We weren't planning it. We weren't expecting it. So I looked at it as a blessing from God. we were prepared. I prepared my body and things of that nature. Had diabetes again, had to sustain the pregnancy with hormones. We had progesterone, which I've had through all three of my pregnancies to keep that cushion so they would stay in and that kind of thing. So, right around 21 weeks, I'd say about 18 weeks, she stopped growing. Um, yeah, they noticed, and I was coming in a little bit more to track her growth, and was maybe a little bit progress, but not the progress that they thought that she should be on. Had some congenital heart issues going on, and I was kind of prepared that this may not work. I went through a lot of anger with God because it was kind of like, what is this about? I wasn't trying to plan to have another baby, and now we got this going on. So it was kind of a rough patch with me and God there at that moment because I knew she wasn't going to make it. And the day that her heart stopped, I literally could feel it in my body that her heart had stopped. Now, we named her Zoe, and for some reason I could tell she was very, very sweet, she didn't move a lot, and that could be because of the development, but there was something in there that just, she had a sweet spirit, and I can't explain that to you all. But with all my children, I felt their spirit. Destiny was feisty. Joshua was very, very calm. RJ he was silly in the womb. Uh, he kicked every night at 8 o'clock in the evening. I don't know what that was. I know his bedtime was 8 o'clock when he got out, but it was like 8 o'clock every evening. He'd kick and kick and kick and kick, and I don't know if there's a such thing as fetal ADHD, but I mean, he was flipping and kicking and active, and he loved music. I would take the little thing, the help call button, and put some classical music on and put it up to my stomach. So he was feisty, but very active. Now with Zoe, I just felt her, it was almost like a ballerina soft, gentle, just gentle. And naming her Zoe was abundant life. That's what it means. And to have her pass away was just devastating. But I knew that it was going to happen when we started seeing signs. So I wasn't surprised. Angry, but not surprised. So when we went to the hospital, I was having contractions, knew what they felt like, knew what was going on. Called the doctor. Doctor said, go on in. I went in. They did the heartbeat thing on me, and they couldn't find her heartbeat. So it just confirmed what I had already knew, that she had slipped away. And I had to deliver her still. So they induced me a little bit, I was already into labor, but they gave me something to help me move along. So out she came, and she was a pound and a half. I think I was about 23, 24 weeks. She had Down syndrome, whatever it is. They confirmed it with an autopsy, which I didn't ask for, but they gave anyway. So she had T17 or T19 or T something. And so I knew it was something with Down syndrome, which did give me some answers as to what was wrong, and, would I have been able to handle that? I had already had my oldest daughter, who we adopted. We got through the gift of adoption, and I had my son, RJ. Did I want another child that would have had special needs? So God, not to say that I was happy that it happened, because that by no means do I mean that, but things happen for a reason. I'm divorced now. I would have had a special needs child plus my other two, and I mean, it would have been a difficult thing for me to handle, and God knows what we can handle. However, I do feel like, well, God, you could have fixed it. I don't understand what that was all about. I got questions when I get on the side. I got a lot of questions and the answers to, because I haven't gotten a lot of answers yet. But needless to say, they all did the same thing with Zoe as well. Zoe had a bear. This is Zoe's bear. She also had a little teardrop there. On the side, this side. Where's the teardrop? Oh, right here. You can see a little tear. And then with her, she had a blanket. Here's her blanket. And they actually made her clothes. So here's her little clothing. And she even had a hat. So she had her little hat. And so by this time, when they got her, they did take pictures as well of all the children. I'm not going to show that because that's a little too personal for me. But when they did also cremate her, and she's buried where the twins are buried, in a memorial place for women who have had miscarriages and stillbirths. And again, I have not been to that place. I've never gotten enough strength to do that, but I memorialized them here with me. So I said that to say that, number one, if you lost a child while you were carrying in utero, or you have a stillbirth child, you're still a mom. You still have memories. The memories may not be as long as other mothers who can remember graduations and things of that nature, but you can still remember your first time hearing the heartbeat, your first time finding out you were pregnant. You know, you can even name them. Some people didn't know whether it was a girl or a boy, but I would tell you to go with your gut on what you felt it was, and he or she was, and then name them. You know, make your own memorial box and grieve healthily so that you don't grieve unhealthily by dealing with things that you don't necessarily want to deal with, because you haven't had a chance to grieve. So my encouragement to you is make a memorial spot for them and yourself, and allow yourself to feel the emotions and to grieve no matter how long it takes. My first two that I lost was in 2007. It's almost 2026. That's a long time. And I still go through the box, like I said, not as often as I have. And I think about them, what they would have looked like, how old they would have been, things of that nature. But I do have comfort in knowing that they're angels. I believe that they watch over RJ and me and may visit from time to time. Some of you may think that is not possible. I do. And that they're on the other side with God. And when He allows them to visit, they can. So I said all that to say I just wanted to be vulnerable, share my boxes with you and my thoughts, and how to encourage you to get over the loss of a child. And the pain never goes away. It just eases. So thank you for letting me be vulnerable. Thank you for allowing me to share my story. And I hope it helps someone. You're not alone, and you will get through it.